At the marriage shrine. I picked up a slip of paper. It wasn't easy to draw a fortune here. So I waited for the owner to return. While my best friend scolded me for being foolish. She might have dropped it on purpose. She said. I didn't expect the owner to come back so quickly. And to my surprise, he was none other than Kale, the son of the richest man in the capital. Before long, we fell deeply in love. Kale was perfect in every way, handsome, virtuous, and wealthy. My best friend, jealous of the life I was now leading, accused me of stealing the slip of paper. When I called her for help, she even spread rumors to Kale, causing me to be killed by his overwhelming possessiveness. This time, she was quick to pick up the slip, and she got the good fortune she had always dreamed of. Ding! The sound of a bell ringing in the temple abruptly pulled me back to reality. A red fortune slip appeared in my hand, and I casually tossed it away. But Serafina, standing nearby, quickly bent down to pick it up and forcefully shoved me aside. She shouted, "Whose fortune slip has fallen?" The scene unfolded much like the last life, but with a twist this time. It was Serafina who picked up the slip, not me. She scoffed at my attempt to help, not bothering to wait for the owner to show up, and walked off. In the end, I had tried to do a good deed, but it led to nothing but an extremely tragic outcome. Serafina's eyes darted around, clearly pretending to be eager to find the slip's owner. "Where's Kale? Where is he?" Suddenly, I heard a voice from another time and space. It was Serafina's inner thoughts. She had been reborn too. At that moment, a gentle male voice sounded from behind us. "This is mine." It was Kale. Even though I knew I was reborn, hearing his voice still made me feel a wave of fear. I shrank behind Serafina, trying to fade into the background. Serafina, however, seemed unafraid. She enthusiastically stepped forward. "Is this a fortune slip for love? Don't lose it, or you might not be able to find a wife." Her tone was playful and full of youthful energy. "No need," Kale replied with a calm smile, his demeanor both gentle and refined. "I think it's already found me." Kale was handsome, with a touch of kindness in his gaze. Not to mention, his family was wealthy. His every gesture and word exuded quality. Serafina was immediately smitten, glancing at me smugly. "He's finally looking at me. My good days are about to begin." Watching Kale gaze at Serafina with an adoring look, my heart didn't settle. It was the same expression he had worn before, the one that had deceived me and made me fall for him completely. In my past life, Serafina had always envied my perfect boyfriend, calling me lucky for having found that slip. Yet, she had turned around and falsely accused me of stealing it, only to later pretend to have found it herself. Back then, Kale hadn't believed her. Perhaps he didn't care about the slip at all. He only cared about me. He followed me every day, his eyes never leaving me, as though he wanted to pull me into his very being. In my previous life, I tried to escape his watchful eyes, only for Serafina to betray me, fabricating lies that I had eloped with another man. In the end, Kale found me and, in his rage, killed me. Now, I had no interest in the perfect love fortune Serafina wanted. Let her have it. I had no need for it. But the grudge between us, Leora, would never forget. They would pay for their deeds. Kale, walking to thank Serafina for her small favor, invited her out for coffee. Of course, she was thrilled. However, she looked back at me awkwardly. "But my friend is still here. Let's do it another time. We'll exchange contact info and arrange something for later." Serafina was playing hard to get, hoping to make Kale more interested in her. Kale then glanced at me. He had meant to just glance. But suddenly, his gaze locked onto me. "This friend of yours. Why does she look so familiar?" His words nearly sent me into a panic. The deep pain I had felt before rushing back as though it were still fresh. Not only was I startled, but even Serafina's heart seemed to skip a beat. I lowered my head. "I have a common face. I must look like someone else. Actually, I just remembered I have something at home. Serafina, I'll leave now." Seeing me cower like that, Kale quickly lost interest in me and turned his attention back to Serafina. When I finally saw them disappear from my sight, I breathed a sigh of relief. Later that evening, Serafina stood in front of my door, shyly calling out, "Leora, I'm going to start dating." I was stunned. That fast? She studied my expression carefully. "Yeah. I think it's quick too. But Kale says I'm his destiny. We're meant to be together. Do you know who he is?" "Who?" I feigned ignorance, following her lead. "He's from the Kale family. The richest family in the city. I'm going to be a rich lady." Looking at the blissful expression on her face, I couldn't help but mutter under my breath, "Hope you live to see it." From then on, Serafina's mother would make a point of stopping by my house to boast, looking down on me, "Leora, just find a decent man and marry him. Not everyone is as lucky as my Serafina, who found such a handsome, kind, and well-born boyfriend." I just smiled and said nothing. The tide had already turned, and when Serafina realized something was off, there would be no way out. It was just like me back then. When I tried to break up with Kale, they all said I was ungrateful, spoiled, and that I didn't know how good I had it. Kale never responded to my wild accusations. He just smiled and never contradicted me in front of others, making me seem even more unreasonable. Serafina loved to talk to me about her relationship with Kale, even sharing details like when they kissed. She watched my every reaction, saying to herself, "In the last life, you were with Kale. This time, I've stolen him from you. Too bad you don't know that the boyfriend who loved you so much can love me just as much." She fantasized about the clutch of two women fighting over one man, and how she had won. I didn't want to fight her for him. In fact, I would have handed him over willingly. "Leora, look, Kale bought me all these things." I told him I didn't want them, but he insisted on sending them. "How annoying." Serafina muttered, "So annoying," under her breath. But in reality, she was practically bursting with joy inside. "These things must be expensive, right? I've never seen anything like them," I said, pretending to be envious. Kale's gift-giving lacked originality. He didn't put any thought into it, which was why everything he gave was so predictable. As soon as I mentioned it, Serafina's smugness returned. "They're all designer brands. Ridiculously expensive. I don't even know why anyone would buy stuff like this." She feigned innocence and turned to ask me, "Why don't you pick out something for yourself?" I immediately shook my head, disgusted by everything Kale gave me. Such nice things would just go to waste on me. I don't know anything about them. Serafina quickly gathered everything back up. She hadn't planned to give me anything, only to show off. "If you're looking for a boyfriend, you should aim for someone like him, gentle, generous, and he loves me enough." Serafina herself hadn't expected things to go this smoothly. It turned out the signed paper really had some kind of magic. It made Kale fall in love with anyone who found it. In my mind, I heard her cursing at me. "Kale was so obsessed with you in the last life. Now you'll have to watch us be happy. Bitch. Bitch. Bitch." I couldn't help but sneer. Serafina couldn't stand to see anyone doing better than her. "You're right. I'll definitely tell you when I find a boyfriend." That actually gave me an idea. Kale liked clean people, so once I had a boyfriend, he would never look at me again. A hint of disdain flashed in Serafina's eyes, and she thought to herself, "What kind of scum could you possibly find? Without Kale, you're nothing." The next day, I found Serafina and told her that I was in a relationship. It was with Elias, the man who had always been quietly in the background in my past life. He was ordinary, plain, but he had the vitality of life. Serafina burst into laughter when she heard this. "Leora, you couldn't bear seeing me date someone, so you just settled for anyone. Huh? He's just a poor worker. How much can he possibly make in a month? When I talk to Kale, I'll get your boyfriend a job at his company. At least he'll make more money. And working for a top 500 company sounds good, right? Get married quickly, and then you can have a poor kid together." She mocked him, but deep down, she was hoping we'd end up together. "By the way, Leora, Kale is taking me to meet his parents tomorrow. What should I wear?" Serafina's attention quickly shifted back to Kale, her eyes gleaming with excitement at the thought of happiness being within arm's reach. They had only known each other for 5 days. And yet she was meeting his parents. During those days, Kale chauffeured her around in luxury cars. Every time she came back, her hands were filled with designer bags, flashing an image of grandeur. Serafina's mother had been coming to my house more often, parading her smugness like a peacock, and it was almost laughable. Leora, you don't know how much his mother likes me. Serafina stretched out her hands, proudly showing off a finely crafted jade bracelet. She says I'm the daughter-in-law sent to them by the matchmaker. It's fate. She's practically begging for Kale to marry me already. She smiled so widely her face seemed to split in two. There had been a similar scenario in the past life, but I had been more reserved, thinking things were moving too fast, so I hadn't agreed. Curiously, I asked, are Kale's parents both at home? Yeah. His dad is nothing like his serious DV persona. He's so kind and gentle. Do you see this bracelet? It's high-quality jade, worth at least hundreds of thousands. I glanced at the bracelet. If it was real, it could easily be worth millions. I had never met Kale's parents in the past life, but now it seemed they must have been aware of their son's mental health issues. Otherwise, how could such a wealthy and prestigious family let a girl they had only known for 5 days into their home and give her such an expensive gift? Once I marry him, I'll fire the housekeeper. She's old and ignorant, and has the nerve to tell me what to do. I'm sure she thinks she owns the place after working here so long. She's just a maid. And once I marry Kale, I'll teach her a lesson about class differences. Serafina tilted her head back, her eyes filled with contempt. I stood by, hitting fulfilled and so sure, watching coldly. She had no idea that in wealthy families, maids who had worked there 4 years couldn't just be replaced like that. The longer they stayed, the more priceless their position in the household. Everything else about his house is great, but the decor is a bit outdated. Everything's made of solid wood, so old-fashioned. But Kale says we won't be living there after marriage. He has a big flat in the city center, and he'll have it renovated according to my tastes. Serafina rambled on about her plans for the future, already acting as though she was married to him. I said nothing and just kept my gaze on her purse. There was no way Kale would let his prey stay out of his sight. His possessiveness was something I knew all too well. Serafina's purse, her shoes, and even the dove-shaped necklace he had given her all could be hiding trackers. Once he set his sights on her, the only way out would be death. Escape would be impossible. But she would never marry into the Kale family. Because in my past life, I had overheard Kale talking to his parents on the phone as I ran away. It turned out that the reason they hadn't married me all these years wasn't because the timing wasn't right, it was because if they married me and I died, it would bring bad luck and leave their son with a widow's unfortunate reputation. They didn't think it was necessary. After all, they were rich, and Kale could date anyone he wanted. If she died, it would just be her fate, and nothing more. Serafina could sense that I was silent, and she smirked at my foolishness, thinking I was just jealous. Come on. Go. Serafina pestered me over the phone, insisting I attend a gathering with Kale's friends. I knew exactly why she was doing this. It was because she couldn't bear that I had refused her previous invitations, and she was eager to make me witness her happiness. But I had finally escaped, and I wasn't about to expose myself to danger so easily. Leora, if you don't come, I'll be mad. Serafina feigned a scolding tone. I've asked Kale to pick you up. He's almost downstairs. Hurry up and come down. Hearing this, I immediately sat up in bed and rushed to the window to look down. Sure enough, a black passout was approaching. I couldn't help but snap. Serafina, what are you doing? Kale is your boyfriend. And I already have a boyfriend. Serafina didn't seem bothered in the least. Oh, come on. He'll pick you up no matter what. Doesn't matter if it's for you or for someone else. He's obedient. Her voice suddenly grew strange, with soft gasps coming through the phone. Before I could say another word, she hung up on me. I stood there in shock. How dare she? If I'm not mistaken, she should be at Kale's Brotherhood gathering right now. surrounded by his people. How dare she so openly? With someone else? She really must be eager to rush her own demise. In order to prevent Kale from getting too attached to me, I quickly threw on a denim jacket, left my face bare without any makeup, and went downstairs. He was alone in the car. Yet I still chose to sit in the back seat. Through the rearview mirror, he glanced at me and greeted me. I simply nodded, then buried my head in my phone as if he were just an ordinary driver. But even though I sat far from him, my hands trembled slightly, and I could still smell the faint scent of blood lingering in the air. Sure enough, the ride was silent for most of the way. Just when I thought I could arrive in peace, Kale finally spoke. Leora. I don't know why, but from the moment I saw you, you felt so familiar. Like we've met before. I looked up in shock and locked eyes with him to the rearview mirror. Cold sweat instantly beaded on my forehead. I forced myself to remain calm. I don't think we've met. It's probably because I'm Serafina's friend. That's why you feel familiar. His expression softened slightly when he heard Serafina's name. Maybe that's it, he muttered. At that moment, my phone buzzed, and I saw a message from Elias. His call came through soon after, and I answered it. I ended up on the phone with Elias until we reached the destination, reluctantly hanging up. Kale didn't get another chance to make small talk with me. We arrived at a lavishly decorated KTV, one of their rich second-generation assets. They had reserved a large private room, the flashing lights almost blinding. Serafina was a little drunk, slumped in a corner of the sofa, completely alone. Her clothes were disheveled, and a sickly sweet scent hung in the air around her. Kale approached her, gently stroking her face, calling her name softly. It took Serafina a while to react. When she did, she looked at Kale with a dazed expression and lunged to kiss him. Serafina's hands were restless, sliding toward Kale's lower body, completely ignoring the fact that there were still people around them. Kale's expression changed, and he pushed her away roughly. He stood up, stepping back to avoid her advances. Turning to me, he said, Leora, Serafina's had too much to drink. Could you take her to her room? I watched the whole scene unfold clearly. Whether Serafina was truly drunk or not, I think I knew better than him. Hearing Kale's slightly angry tone, Serafina finally woke up. Kale, you're back. I missed you so much. She threw herself at him, tightly gripping his arm as if afraid he would disappear. When she turned around and saw me, her face lit up with surprise. Leora, you're here. She walked over to me. No trace of her drunken stupor left. She pulled me into the crowd and began introducing me to everyone with forceful enthusiasm. As I looked at all the familiar faces, an icy chill swept over me. I recognized them all, and none of them were good people. It was then that I should have realized something was off with Kale. There's an old saying, birds of a feather flock together. These rich second-generation sons were nothing but scum, no principles, no morals. And if Kale was close to them, what did that make him? Kale sat in the shadows, only his sharp chin visible, his expression unreadable. I knew Serafina's good days were numbered, because Kale liked clean girls. I forced myself to play along with these rich brats, even letting them take a few liberties with me. I tolerated it all, seeing me getting along so well with them. Serafina raised her chin smugly, speaking with a sharp tone. I told you to come out, but you refused. Now you're having fun, aren't you? I say, just break up with that poor boyfriend of yours. Any one of these guys here is better than him. Her words were thoughtless, and her comments not only embarrassed me, but also made the rich second-generation sons look bad as they were compared to my poor ex-boyfriend. What's more, it sounded like she had brought me here to hook up with rich, gullible boyfriends. The atmosphere, once filled with laughter and fun, fell abruptly silent as everyone stared at Serafina. She realized her mistake too late, her eyes widening in shock. She quickly tried to salvage the situation. Oh, if I didn't know you've never seen the world, I wouldn't have thought to bring you here. Her words only dug her hole deeper. The second-generation sons were no fools, and no one came to her defense. They stood silently, watching her flounder. making her feel more and more embarrassed. They were intentionally making her suffer. Desperate, Serafina grabbed the arm of a man she clearly had something going on with. Jax. What do you think? Jax. The wealthy second gen. Just smiled without saying a word. Cale rose from the corner, stepping forward to put his arm around Serafina's shoulder. You all enjoy yourselves. This time, it's on me. Seeing Cale stepping in to support Serafina, the others started chatting and laughing again, as though the awkward incident had never happened. I overheard Serafina mentally cursing me. Damn it. If it weren't for that bitch Leora, I wouldn't have made such a fool of myself. I wasn't bothered by her words. Let her curse me all she wanted. She wouldn't have many chances left to do so. And I wouldn't lose sleep over it. Serafina had once wanted me to watch her swim effortlessly in Cale's world, envying her glamorous life. But who would have thought that I would witness her make such a huge fool of herself? Afterward, Serafina kept a much lower profile, no longer boasting about her relationships with Cale's friends. Cale treated her the same as always, if not better. Designer jewelry arrived at her house every day, and Serafina's mother beamed with pride. Neighbors envied her for landing such a good son-in-law. Some even asked Serafina to introduce them to a wealthy second-generation guy. Serafina's mother lifted her chin proudly. You don't understand. My daughter and son-in-law didn't just meet casually. It was fate. Tied by the red string of fate. Our Serafina is his family's lucky star. Otherwise, would they be so eager? But I'm still hesitating. Should I let my daughter marry into his family? What a boast she'd blown it all up to the sky. And everyone could see how doting Cale had been. So of course they flatter her. Cale whisked Serafina overseas every few days. Each trip a week long. Sometimes a month. And her mother never worried. Serafina said she'd been in a foul mood from the heat, and Cale couldn't bear to see her unhappy. So he took her away to relax. Cale was about to make his move. I went on with my days, working as usual and calling Elias now and then. Elias was a good man, steady, plain, hardworking, didn't smoke or drink, loved to play games. Rational too. He never spent money on in-game purchases. Life was orderly, and I liked that quiet rhythm. But I couldn't relax yet, there was still work to finish. Those two deserved what was coming. And until they got it, nothing was over. I quietly gathered information on Cale's parents and hired a professional investigator to dig up their secrets. The histories of so-called successful people rarely survive close scrutiny. I collected every scrap of evidence and waited for the right moment to strike. I would make them pay back everything they'd taken from us. When I saw Serafina again, she darkened at the edges and looked haggard, but her spirits were high. She walked downstairs laden with shopping bags like a movie star, sunglasses on, ignoring anyone who spoke to her as she went home. Gosh. Serafina's something else, she set for a life of luxury. The old neighbors cooed. At that time, the matchmaking temple doors might as well have been worn through. People queued up day and night praying for matches. Men and women. Countless. Serafina met me at a CAF and went on and on about how wonderful Cale had been to her lately. How blissful she felt. I knew before Cale showed his true face he played the perfect part. A near flawless boyfriend. But no one is that perfect. Perfection that fits every wish is itself a red flag. Still, Serafina, in love, didn't notice, just like I hadn't. I smiled as she told me which country they'd visited, what scenery they'd seen, who they'd met, how protective Cale was. When she saw no envy in my face, she grew bored and slowly fell silent. You country bumpkin. You'll never get out of this city. Let alone go abroad. You can't even imagine what it's like overseas. She sneered. Lately Cale had clearly been preparing his next step. He hadn't been taking Serafina out for days. To avoid the coming storm and to facilitate my plan, I requested a business trip to the south. Luckily my company had branches nationwide. The project I was overseeing needed to be moved to the business center. So I volunteered to go south. Cale's next move was to isolate Serafina from friends and family so he could take her to a motel and for a year or more without anyone noticing. Then claim she died abroad of some illness and pay a showy settlement. That sum would be pocket change to them, but a fortune to ordinary people. And it would polish Cale's reputation. He'd look magnanimous for compensating his girlfriend's family. In this way he'd leave no trace of wrongdoing. Even murder would leave no stain. In my last life my friendship with Serafina broke down. Everything I said sounded like bragging to her. And gradually we stopped speaking. Because of that. When Cale reached this stage he hadn't considered me a threat. After I escaped the Isle and I tried to contact her. But she still ended up dead because of him. Sure enough. Within a few days Serafina began calling and texting me frantically, complaining about her mother. Complaining about her father. About snobby relatives. Even about the neighbor's dog, making her life miserable. At first I pretended to be busy with work and replied once every 2 days. Really? Later it became once a week. No way. Eventually I stopped replying at all. Answered calls with busy at work. Talk later. And cut off any opening for her to speak. Gradually she stopped reaching out. Cale's purge of Serafina's social circle had overlooked me. If they'd eliminated me too, things would have been much harder later. One day I phoned my mother and asked about Serafina. Through the line my mother's disdain was audible. She ran away. Of course. Took everything of value from the house. Her mother, shouting at her on the doorstep, said it's better to raise a dog than her. My mother had yelled the same at me when I ran away in the last life. But Serafina had gone even further. How long ago did she leave? I asked. A week already. Why are you asking? If you try anything like that I'll break your legs. My mother snapped. A week this time the pace had sped up. In my past life Cale only began cutting ties after 2 years. Now. Within a year he'd already whisked Serafina to the island. I immediately ended my business trip, claiming I was pregnant and needed to return to prepare for the wedding. Back home. I finally received a message from Serafina. Leora. Guess where I am? I'm on an isle, and that belongs to me and Cale. This has been the happiest time of my life. And I know I'll be happy forever. I finally feel the happiness she once had, but now. It's mine. Reading her words. I felt a thrill I could hardly contain. This would be the end. My revenge was finally coming to fruition. Serafina. Whatever you wanted, I would give you in full. Where else in the world would you find a friend like me? In the last life standing on that isle, and with Cale I had thought I would be reborn there. That a new life awaited me. Who knew the nightmare was only beginning? The island was full of foreigners speaking languages I didn't recognize. I was only ever allowed to follow Cale around. Then one day I met a young man who delivered milk to our house every day. He was only 18, young and sunny, and even though we couldn't speak the same language, his gestures and expressions were friendly. I wanted to communicate with someone. Since moving there Cale had locked himself in his study, and wouldn't let me go out or talk to me. So I seized the brief moments with the young milkman to learn a few simple words. I was delighted and ran to share my little triumph with Cale. But his face changed suddenly. Where did you learn that? Who taught you? I didn't understand. And I whispered. It was just. Before I could even finish my sentence, Cale hoisted me up without warning, ignoring my frantic struggles, and carried me straight into a hidden basement within the house. All this time living here, I hadn't even known there was a basement. Terror surged through me in an instant. From that day onward for an entire year I never set foot outside that place again. Cale was a devil. He had never touched me before, saying he wanted to save it until we were married. Now I realized it wasn't restraint, it was a sickness. A disorder that made him incapable of intimacy in any normal sense. So instead, he unleashed every perverse, sadistic impulse upon me. That year was worse than death. Every night, I prayed the sun would never rise again. His moods swung wildly. One moment, he would hold me tenderly, applying medicine to my wounds with trembling hands. The next, he would drive his fingers into those same wounds, tearing them open just to watch me bleed. He was insane, a madman. Through and through. In the end, I managed to escape while he was distracted on a call with his mother. Crawling on my knees, inch by inch, I made my way out of that basement. By some miracle, he hadn't thought I'd ever be capable of escaping. My phone was still upstairs untouched, and right beside it was a charger. I turned it on. But when I looked through my half-empty contact list, my mind went blank. Who could I even call? His family's influence ran deep. If I called the police, they would probably transfer me before the officers even confirmed my location. Besides, I didn't even know where I was. How could anyone possibly find me? A year of torment had left my memory in tatters. Then I suddenly remembered I had told Serafina before I came here. She would know where I was. Trembling, I hid under a table and dialed her number. To my relief, she picked up quickly. Serafina. Help me. Kale's going to kill me. I'm on the aisle and I told you about it before. Please. Come get me. I can't hold on any longer. Please. There was a pause on the other end. And her voice came. Calm and faintly curious. Are you still on that island? Yes. I can't get away, I'm still in the villa. Where exactly? Can you tell me the details? A chill rippled down my spine. Why did she need to know exactly where I was? Did she think I'd just sit here and wait for her to come? Just then, what out a low sigh. A gentle male voice sounded from behind me. Leora. What are you doing crouched down there? Every hair on my body stood on end. I turned my head slowly. Kale was standing there. Phone in one hand. A red whip in the other. His expressions oft and almost affectionate. From his phone, I could still hear Serafina's voice. Kale. Leora just called me. She said she wanted to go home. She's probably not alone, right? Maybe she met someone on the aisle and who convinced her to run away. That's not true. It's not true. I screamed. Panic rising in my throat. Kale's expression shifted once. Twice, then froze into that all too familiar mask of rage. The whip cracked through the air before I could move, striking my left eye. Then my arm. My neck. My legs. He had lost it. Completely. I lay on the floor. My body numb. Cold slipping away as the burning pain consumed me. From the still connected phone came Serafina's fake, gentle voice, trying to calm him down. Hatred burned inside me, deeper than the pain. If there's another life, I swore silently, heading fulfilledly, I'll make them pay for every drop of blood. When I came back to myself, I realized I'd been lost again, reliving that final, endless year of my past life. I wondered how long Serafina could last this time. 3 months later, I received a call from her. I was at my desk, emotionless. When I picked up, Leora. Help me. Please. Kale's insane. He's going to kill me. It hurts so much, please save me. I leaned back comfortably. My voice calm. Oh? Is that so? How could that be? Isn't Kale the perfect boyfriend? The one who gives you everything you've ever wanted? You'll live happily forever and ever. The mocking emphasis on happily made her gasp. Then she snapped, realizing what I meant. Leora. You knew, didn't you? You knew all along. You bitch. I couldn't help laughing. Loud and unrestrained. As my co-workers glanced over in confusion. Let me guess. I said, still chuckling. You're hiding under a table right now, aren't you? Just like I was? My laughter rang through the office. And Serafina could only shriek bitch over and over on the other end. When my laughter subsided, I said coldly, you should thank me, Serafina. I haven't even called Kale yet. Judging by the timing of her call, she was suffering far worse than I ever had. It had only been 3 months, and she was already falling apart. Through the phone, I heard Kale calling her name, followed by the sound of her frantic sobs and pleading. She wouldn't die today, but death would be kinder. My wish was simple. I wanted Serafina to go completely mad, and then take Kale down with her. People like them didn't deserve to live. Half a month passed, and there was still no news, no death announcement, no call, nothing. But I did run into someone familiar. Jax Kale's rich second-generation friend, the one who'd had an affair with Serafina. Has Serafina come back yet? He asked with a sly grin. I was surprised he spoke to me at all. I haven't been in touch with her for a long time. Really? Kale's got some twisted tastes. Huh? He said with a smirk. What do you mean? I asked, frowning. He chuckled darkly. He told me to seduce his girlfriend. Who knew Serafina was such an easy lay? Barely took a push. My mind reeled. Kale. Did it on purpose? I thought back to how overly friendly his friends had been with me in my past life. But I'd brushed it off, treating them like my own friends. Only the milk delivery boy on the aisle and had no connection to Cale at least. I'd thought so. Now, a chill crept up my spine. Cale was terrifying. According to the detective's report, he had multiple personality disorder along with OCD, mania, and paranoia. Practically a walking cocktail of madness. Now I understood why he did what he did. One of his personalities allowed him to function like a normal man, rational, restrained, bound by moral codes and social rules. But the other, dark, unrestrained, was the one that sought vengeance for every imagined slight. He had people seduce me. Because only if I betrayed him could he justify his cruelty. He was, in every sense of the word, a monster. Ring. Ring. The sudden sound of the phone startled me. What made it worse was the caller ID, Cale's number. Why was he calling me? After a brief moment of hesitation, I picked up the phone. Cale's voice came through, warm and gentle, just like the first time we met. Leora. It's Cale. Do you still remember my number? What do you want? I asked, my voice wary. Why wasn't it you who picked up the signed paper? It was you in the last life. He was back. Well, it doesn't matter. Since fate has given us another chance to meet, it must mean our connection isn't over. I'm sorry for what happened last time when I accidentally caused your death. His casual apology sent chills down my spine. How could he treat a life like that? As if a single sorry could erase it? I forced myself to slow my breathing, trying to relax. What are you talking about? I don't understand. That's fine. Don't worry about it. I'll finish what I'm doing. And then I'll come to find you. Cale's voice was cheerful. I can't reach Serafina. Can you let me talk to her? I didn't even ask if she was with him. Because I knew she was. Please. I miss her so much. Sure enough, Cale didn't hesitate and handed the phone to Serafina. I spoke into the phone. Serafina. Did you hear what Cale just said? He's coming to find me. In the end, he loves me more. The happiness you stole from me will be returned to me. Are you content with that? You'll always just be a stepping stone for my happiness. A spectator never entitled to your own. He's going to leave you and come to me. We're going to get married in a villa worth hundreds of millions. Surrounded by endless designer clothes, jewelry, and bags. And you? You'll rot in a basement, never seeing the light of day. I could hear the sharp breaths and angry growls from the other end of the line. And I knew I was about to succeed. Serafina would never let me be happy. The phone was suddenly taken from Serafina by Cale, who cheerfully said, Leora. Wait for me. You want to. The sentence was cut off abruptly, followed by the sound of the phone hitting the ground, a heavy thud. I could already imagine what happened while Cale turned away to talk to me. Serafina, without hesitation, grabbed the nearest sharp object and drove it into Cale's chest. Cale never saw it coming. The very thing meant to send her to her death had ended up piercing his own heart. Everything was finally coming to an end. Cale was dead. And Serafina wouldn't be walking off that island. After all, the place was crawling with Cale's people. The moment she stepped outside the villa, she'd be discovered. And Cale's family would know about his death immediately. How could they simply let a son's killer walk free? The sound of the blade stabbing into his chest and being withdrawn, repeatedly echoing through the phone, brought a satisfied smile to my face. Did I say anything? I was merely imagining a future of happiness with Cale. 3 days later, I reported my friend missing on the island. The police from the island nation went to investigate and were shocked by what they found. The news broke the same day. A woman's body was discovered, covered in countless wounds, with no part of her unscathed. But based on the blood loss on the ground, they suspected there was another body nearby. After gathering evidence, they found a severed male finger in the corner. Its stump showing no signs of life. It had clearly been severed posthumously. They also unearthed dozens of female skeletons in the garden behind the villa. The news caused a huge uproar, especially after Serafina's photos were released. Cale's family, too ashamed to publicly acknowledge their son's death, stayed silent. even though his finger was found there. But his body had already been taken away. I couldn't help but feel some satisfaction. They couldn't even have a proper funeral for their son. I released all the evidence gathered by the detectives. And soon enough, the family's front door was swarmed by people demanding answers. In the end, they were arrested. The once mighty family of the richest man in the capital had fallen. Want some ice cream? Elias may not be rich, may not be exceptional, and his personality is a bit immature with plenty of little quirks. But at least he's presentable. Still, I felt content. This is what normal love feels like. Sure, my son, who was studying abroad, took advantage of my cleaning the room to attack me with a hammer, stuffed me into a suitcase, and threw me into the sea to drift. He told the investigating police officer. I hated her. Hated her for controlling everything about me and leaving me with no freedom at all. But I really don't know where she went. When I regained consciousness, I found myself back before the college entrance examination, and my son was confronting me hysterically. I reached up to touch the back of my head. Fortunately, everything was still in time. As soon as the senior year mock exam results came out, my son's homeroom teacher, Ethan, messaged me. Julian's mother. These are the child's mock exam results. I'll call you later to discuss. I opened the score report Ethan sent. As always, it was last place in the class. Looking at the teacher's message, I sat at the desk waiting for the call. Ethan didn't look very old, but he was responsible and made people feel comfortable. Never overbearing. Both students and parents liked him. Every time he contacted a student's parent, he would first send a message notification before making a call. Julian's mother. His performance this time is very unsatisfactory. The college entrance examination is approaching, and you as parents should start considering Julian's future. You need to communicate well with the child to see if we can improve his scores. Sometimes a 1-point difference can mean a different school. After listening to Ethan's words, I felt a moment of trance. In my past life, Ethan had said the same thing, and I had been as anxious as an ant on a hot pan, spinning in circles all day. I arranged one-on-one tutoring, school major selection, psychological counseling, and more, all meticulously planned. His scores improved significantly in the college entrance examination, but he barely met the undergraduate threshold with no good majors available. Despite their opposition, I insisted on sending my son abroad to polish his credentials. I hoped he would have a bright future after returning home. Instead, he remained unmotivated abroad. He used various excuses to ask me for money while pursuing his so-called freedom-skipping classes, playing online games, hooking up, and indulging in debauchery with so-called brothers. In the end, afraid I would discover his cohabitation with his girlfriend, he struck my head with a hammer. As he stuffed me into the suitcase, he muttered, "Goodbye, Mom. From today, I'm free. Everything you gave me is unwanted. You just wanted to make me your puppet." With my last conscious thoughts, I listened to his complaints, never imagining that my first ride in my son's car would be from inside a suitcase in the back seat. "Mom, lay Mom out. Don't give birth to me in your next life." My son smiled as he threw the suitcase containing me into the sea. I reached up to touch the back of my head. It hurt more than giving birth. I swallowed, trying to wash away the bitter taste in my mouth. "Ethan, I understand." After hanging up with Ethan, I called my former supervisor. "Miranda. Sis, heading fulfilled my sesh. Do you still need someone on your team?" Miranda's surprised voice came through the phone. "What's wrong? Are you short on money?" Realizing she had misspoken, she quickly added, "Don't get me wrong. I just thought you'd been at home taking care of your husband and son for so many years. Why suddenly want to come back to work?" Hearing Miranda's words, I felt a pang of emotion. Yes, I had always been a woman without ambition. My greatest desire being to stay home, raise a family, and be a devoted wife and mother with a warm, stable home. When giving birth to Julian, I had a difficult labor with massive bleeding, surviving a near-death experience. You need to prepare mentally. You won't be able to have more children. As someone who loved children deeply, I felt fortunate to have little Julie, and despite the doctor's pronouncement, yes, Julian became my only child, and my only wish was for him to grow up safely, smoothly, and without financial worries. Facing the choice between career and family, I chose family for my son. From his infancy, I dedicated myself entirely to caring for him. I handled everything from choosing diapers and milk powder to managing all aspects of his daily life. To better care for him, I even self-studied and became a certified baby care specialist, nutritionist, and kindergarten teacher. As my son grew older, I paid close attention to everything from his diet to daily schedules and hobby cultivation. If sacrificing myself could help my son go further, I would do it willingly. Experience from my first half of life taught me that wealth, appearance, and other such things are not important, and only ability stays with you for life. With sufficient ability, even if you lose everything, you can rise again. The child is older now, and I need to have my own life too. I replied to Miranda with a touch of sadness. Miranda was delighted by my words. I'm so glad you think that way. I'll send you the materials via email later. Welcome back. Also, I remember your son is taking the college entrance exam this year. Why don't you work from home first? Thank you. I had no objections to Miranda's arrangements. I needed time to reacquaint myself with the job. I heard the door open and exchanged polite words with Miranda. Thanks for handling this. I have something else to attend to here. Let's talk again later. Hearing my phone conversation, my son assumed I had arranged another course for him. He walked up to me, expressionless, and asked, "What are you planning to make me do now?" I said nothing, quietly studying my son, trying to understand his thoughts. Unfortunately, I couldn't see through him. Dressed in a school uniform with a buzz cut, he looked every bit the student. He met my gaze defiantly. Can you give me the right to choose for myself? Can you ask for my opinion before making decisions? I'm a human being. I want freedom. I don't want to be your puppet. Watching him shift from calm to hysterical, seeing the anger and hostility in his eyes, I realized everything had been predictable. I sighed and said softly, "You're grown up now, not a child. You should understand some things. With your current grades, you know better than anyone what kind of school you can get into. From today on, you can decide your own path." I pushed the phone on the desk toward my son and continued, "Whatever decision you make, just tell your father. I won't interfere anymore." My son stared at me in shock, disbelief written all over his face. In a fit of pique, he grabbed the phone and called Victor in front of me. "Dad, when are you coming home? Mom is angry and ignoring me. You're all I have left now." Hearing his words to his father, I was stunned. I never imagined my son could utter such manipulative remarks. I couldn't hear what Victor said on the other end, but my son hung up quickly, his eyes filled with triumph. "Here. I'm done with the phone. I'm going back to my room to study." Watching his retreating back, I fell into deep thought. I saw a flicker of threat in his eyes. Did he think I would stay to serve him and his father? Ding dong. I was reviewing work materials and used the phone's shortcut key to speak to the person at the door. "Thanks. Just leave the takeout at the door." Tap tap tap. My son also heard the doorbell. He came out of his room and rushed to the door. "Dad." His voice was full of grievance, as if I had been bullying him terribly. At the door, I saw the two of them hugging tightly. I watched the scene with the bitter heart, father and son inseparable. A perfect display of paternal kindness and filial piety. "It's okay, son. Dad is here for you." After comforting my son, Victor looked straight at me, his tone uncompromising. "Let's not talk about you ignoring him for now. Tell me, how have you been raising our son? Feeding him takeout every day?" I never expected his first accusation would be about the takeout. Nor did I expect my son's words to be so effective. One call had brought back a man who hadn't been home in 10 days. After he called Victor, Victor arrived even before the takeout. "Hello. Clara's takeout is here. Who can sign for it?" I walked past the two, took the takeout from the delivery person. "Thanks." I held up the takeout toward Victor. "Victor, This is my dinner. This takeout wasn't meant for your precious son. You never noticed when I cooked for our son every single meal. But now you fixate on one takeout order. Victor looked at the portion size. Clearly for one person. And grew angrier. His voice rising in accusation. Fine, went out a low sigh. You ordered takeout. But how can you be so selfish and only order for yourself? Have you forgotten you're a mother? Do you even see me as your husband or your son as your child? What righteous indignation. So he still knew his role as a husband and father. It seemed the man who never came home still remembered he had a family. Whenever I called, he was always busy. But a call from his son made him arrive faster than the delivery person. Who was the one with double standards here? I opened the takeout. The fragrant, colorful meal looked appetizing. Let's get a divorce. As expected, my son took his father's side and immediately challenged me. How dare you ask for a divorce? Dad works dawn to dusk to earn money. And this is how you repay him? You ungrateful wretch. You'd be nothing without Dad. Remember your place. Victor didn't refute our son's words. Acquiescence the accusations. My son's words continued, each one a dagger to the heart. Think about it, what could you do without Dad? You couldn't even get a warm drink. When my son finished, Victor stepped in as the good guy. Your mother didn't mean that. Clara. This is childish. You're a mother now. Not a teenager in a relationship. Don't act on impulse. Facing their accusations, I thought I would be angry or sad. But instead, I calmly ate my takeout. I slowly finished every last bite. Victor's reaction didn't surprise me, had seen through him long ago. He had enjoyed all my sacrifices while trying to judge me from a moral high ground. Since I quit my job to stay home, he had been running his business outside. He had never lifted a finger for our son, whether in daily life or studies. Justifying it with the old saying, men handle external affairs. Women handle internal ones. In my past life, when I went missing abroad, he didn't even look for me and continued to focus on his career in China. I drifted at sea and died at the bottom of the ocean. And I still remember what it felt like to be soaked in the icy sea. Looking back, it's truly pitiful. After marriage, my husband was busy with business and treated me like a nanny. I gave everything for our son. But he thought I was too controlling and that he'd lost his freedom. Putting others before yourself is the beginning of misfortune. I took a tissue from the dining table and wiped my mouth. Victor, you're right. We're all adults and should take responsibility for our words and actions. I still decide to get a divorce. Let's find time to sign this. My attitude was so firm that our son looked at me in disbelief, even thinking I was threatening them. He didn't expect me to be serious. His mouth opened and closed, and he finally said, I won't go with you. His words didn't surprise me at all. He didn't want me to control him. So why would he follow me? Despite the experiences of my past life and being mentally prepared, I still felt a twinge of discomfort. After sacrificing so much, I ended up with my son's hostility. Victor had been in business for years and still valued our son highly. If our first child hadn't been a son, he would have used connections to have a second child long ago. But what did that matter to me now? I didn't want either of them anymore. I thought I had given enough to this family. One was busy with his career, and the other wanted freedom. I might as well let them have what they wanted instead of being the villain. Even for my own sake, it was time to live for myself. Divide the property as it should be. As for you, I looked at my son and said seriously, you're an adult now. Make your own decisions from now on. Victor looked at me in disbelief when he heard my words. After marrying him, I had maintained a high-intensity job. When there were signs of a miscarriage, I gave up work for our son. From then on, I revolved around the family and these two, father and son. Because of the family, I lost all my social life and even contact with my friends and parents. He knew that our son was the most important to me and that family weighed heavily on my heart. Only now did he realize I wasn't speaking out of anger, that I was serious. The son I had given everything to hated me. And my husband ignored me. I didn't see any meaning in staying in this family anymore. This time, I just wanted to live for myself. Because of my decision, Victor felt his authority was being challenged. He took on the attitude of a business negotiation with me. "I'll give you one more chance. It's not too late to regret." I looked at Victor quietly. My attitude firm. "I'm an adult. And every decision I make is well thought out." "Very good. I really underestimated you before." The fierceness in his eyes made me tremble even after sleeping beside him for years. Perhaps my eyes were truly bad. I couldn't see through the son I had raised or the person sleeping beside me. Victor went to the study without a word. A minute later, a slightly worn printed paper was placed in my hand. Our son stood by, dumbfounded, amazed at his father's speed. Victor comforted him. "It's okay if your mother doesn't care about you. Dad will take care of you." Then he looked at me provocatively. "From today on, what do you want to do? What do you want? Tell Dad. And I'll back you up. Women like your mother. I can find a dozen outside." I didn't comment on Victor's words. After all, it wasn't the first time he had belittled me. As long as we were at home, any decision had to be made according to Victor. When I lost my financial resources, I also lost my voice at home. Looking back now, I was really stupid. I gave up on myself and my entire life for the family and my son. So, was the outcome of my past life my own fault? Yes, it was. After figuring it out, I felt like I had broken through a kind of imprisonment, and my whole body felt relaxed. I no longer felt restrained after waking up. Don't worry. Once I sign, I won't regret it. I picked up a pen and wrote my name neatly. Victor tried to retreat to advance but miscalculated again. Seeing how quickly I, who had always been family-oriented, signed the papers, he frowned so tightly that it could crush a fly. He had always seen how much I sacrificed for our son. Others often marveled at my dedication to the child, always thinking my son would become someone great in the future. As for Victor, he was very happy that I had the consciousness of a good wife and mother. In my past life, when various problems arose with our son, I never troubled Victor with anything I could solve, wanting him to focus on his business. Of course, he had no idea what kind of character our son actually had. At a young age, our son not only learned to smoke, drink, and play games but also found a girlfriend. Both she and our son had just turned adults. At such a young age, they had a forbidden relationship, and by the time I found out, she was already pregnant. The first time she saw me, she begged me to bless them. She said they had thought it through. She said they were truly in love. She said love could transcend age. Looking at the young girl, I thought she was pitifully naive. She was fighting for pure love before even managing her own life. One day, if she lost her love, she would lose everything. Under my insistence, I took my son's girlfriend for an abortion. I revere life and often send supplies to animal shelters and help out when I can. But now, to correct my son's mistake, I insisted on a course of action that cost another living life. Later, I accidentally saw my son's girlfriend. I then realized that not everything is as it seems on the surface. She had chosen my son from her fish pond, because Victor was a businessman from a wealthy family. When Victor saw that I was determined to stop caring for our son, he didn't take it to heart. He took our son to the company every day after school. Victor had some patriarchal tendencies. When I was raising our son, I deliberately avoided this. I was happy to see him being good to our son. But blind indulgence is a deadly weapon. Until our son came back to get his change of clothes, and saw me working in the sunny greenhouse, looking relaxed and carefree. He said sorry to me. "Do you know what I've been eating these days?" I followed his words and asked, "What?" My son continued proudly. "We eat at different restaurants every day. Dad loves me so much and takes me to eat delicious food every day." My son had been weak and sickly since childhood, taking medicine every 3 days and being hospitalized every half-month. For his health, I had always personally taken care of his diet: low oil, less salt, no sugar, with a balanced diet of meat and vegetables. I studied nutrition hard, and my son's health improved a lot through dietary therapy. If I couldn't ensure he excelled in studies, I could at least try to keep him healthy. This was the most successful thing I had done for my son. My attention was on my work. But I still responded to him. That's good. Not satisfied, my son said again. I'm really satisfied with what I eat every day now. It's not like when I was with you. When I couldn't eat anything. I didn't look up. My attitude completely angered my son. What's your attitude? Is this how a mother should be? Go out and see when does a mother get angry with her child like this? Heh. I was angered and amused by my son's words. You're an adult now. What do you want? Can't you fight for it yourself? Weren't you the one who hated me controlling you the most? My son instinctively said. But I'm your son. His subconscious reaction suddenly made me understand. He only wanted to take from me by relying on his status as my son when he needed something. And when he didn't, he pursued his freedom. He was just as double-standard as his father. I never liked to be indecisive. Once I make a decision, I act immediately. Urged by me, we quickly filed for divorce. My son was also being petulant. He went to school during the day and looked for Victor after school. It's not too late for you to regret now. Victor stood at the door of the Civil Affairs Bureau. I smiled and shook my head. Walking in first. Are you voluntarily getting a divorce? Have you thought it through? Yes. In response to the clerk's question, I calmly handed over the documents. Victor seemingly reluctantly handed over his materials too. Only I knew that the look he gave me was full of provocation, expecting me to give in. After reading the divorce application, the clerk looked at me with pity in her eyes again. I knew why she looked at me like that. The divorce agreement seemed fair, dividing property according to the law. But through Victor's manipulation, the real estate, cars, and company were all gone, having been mortgaged as assets long ago. Only a small, old house in the urban area was assigned to me. That was the dowry my father had given me. After nearly 20 years of marriage, I had nothing. I had become a joke. Stepping out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, I felt a wave of relief. And even the grass by the roadside looked fresh and lovely. Beep. Victor rolled down the car window. Want me to give you a ride? I shook my head and refused. No need. From start to finish. Our son had been playing on his phone in the back seat without looking at me once. With the vehicles coming and going on the road, I felt completely relaxed and couldn't help but reflect. I should have controlled too much. Once he had his own thoughts. He only felt traumed and bored. Without any space of his own or the freedom he wanted. What I gave him was always what I thought was good. I could understand why my son didn't want to talk to me now. He must be overjoyed to finally not have to live with me every day. After years of living with Victor, I knew he was a man who was willing to spend money on his child. He might not be a good husband, but he should be able to be a good father. With his father around this time, my son would surely get the freedom he had dreamed of. As for me, I no longer had to be the villain in his eyes. This time, he could have everything he wanted. He could do what he liked and live the life he wanted. And I could return to the workplace and lead the rest of my life for myself. This way, both of us could have a fulfilling life. I greeted Miranda and decided to work at the company. A professional environment can better motivate me to make rapid progress. Julian's mother. I need to discuss your child's issues with you. Please be prepared. Upon seeing Ethan's message, my first thought was, did Julian not tell Ethan about our divorce? I quickly dismissed this idea as impossible. But wasn't his greatest wish for me to stop interfering? He would surely have told the teacher immediately to contact his father instead. So why was the teacher still reaching out to me? Before I could sort this out, Ethan called. Julian's mother. Is this a good time to talk? Ethan, whoosh. Julian's father is now responsible for his matters. It's useless to discuss them with me. I decided to clarify with the teacher. Ethan paused briefly. I've already spoken to Julian's father. But it didn't help. I know how much you've sacrificed for your son. And I don't want hearing Ethan's words. My eyes grew warm. So someone had noticed my efforts. Thinking of my past life's tragic end, I felt a surge of grievance. I had given everything I could, only to meet a violent death. My son, the one I cared for deeply, resented my control. I had always thought I was resigned to this fate, that I could manage alone. But deep down, I was still unreconciled. Upon hearing my quiet sobs, Ivan said, "Just cry if you need to." For a long time, he stayed silent, simply listening. Suddenly aware we were still on the call, I apologized. "Sorry. It's okay. I understand how you feel. But the college entrance exam is crucial for your son's future," he said. "Don't act on impulse." Still his mother. Ivan was right. Although I had decided to stop intervening in Julian's life, I couldn't turn a blind eye. After much thought, I devised a compromise. I would remind his father. After the divorce, Victor had blocked my contact information to avoid any connection. A visit to his company was now necessary. I had never been to his office before, but I located his workplace via the business license. Without an appointment, the receptionist wouldn't let me upstairs. It seemed impossible to enter the company. I resorted to the simplest method, waiting in the lobby lounge. But unlike dramatic soap operas, reality didn't deliver a convenient encounter. I waited the entire morning, even as my phone battery died, without catching a glimpse of him. This approach clearly wasn't working. I needed a new plan. Before I could think of one, I received a text from him, "VIP room 3. By the waterfront. 6 p.m. tomorrow." I doubted he would actively invite me. Checking the calendar, I realized it was our monthly family gathering. This text was likely a mass message, but it revealed his schedule. After the divorce, I had no intention of attending such events. I called back, only to hear a busy signal. I bitterly smiled and put down my phone. Now, it seemed I had no choice. With him blocking me, this was my only chance to meet Victor. Marriage had been a constant cycle of me compromising and giving. I used to comfort myself that I was simply family-oriented. Looking back now, it all felt like a joke. I opened my closet to pick a suitable outfit. After scanning the shelves multiple times, I found nothing satisfactory. Most clothes were outdated or worn out. Some I had never dared to wear were now ill-fitting due to weight changes. This closet was a mirror reflecting my entire married life. When you always put others first, how can you expect others to prioritize you? In the end, I forced myself to pick an outfit for the meeting with Victor. I would remember this humiliation and learn to cherish myself. I waited early at the restaurant entrance, legs aching from standing, until Victor finally appeared with a female companion, Vivian. Victor had shown me her photos before. Whenever Victor got drunk at business dinners and didn't come home, it was Vivian who messaged me. She wore a tasteful makeup, a well-tailored dress that perfectly complemented her figure, clearly a deliberate ensemble. They approached laughing, Victor wearing a tender expression rare in our marriage. Together, they made a striking couple. "Victor, I need to talk to you." I interrupted their path. His smile vanished instantly. "What are you doing here? Who is this?" Vivian interjected politely. Victor's voice softened, as if less disturbing her. "Just a stranger now." I saw the provocation in her eyes as she cooed to Victor. "If you don't want to say, it's okay, don't be so harsh. She must have a reason to wait for you. Should I go in first and give you space?" Watching their affectionate display, I felt another pang of failure. After the divorce, he had vanished and likely already moved on in secret. Not necessary. I cut off their exchange. Ethan contacted me. "You need to focus on both your business and Julian. Don't forget you're still his father." Victor frowned, confused. "What about Julian?" Beads of sweat formed on Vivian's forehead, her eyes betraying malice. She hadn't expected the truth to surface so soon. Though scarred by my past life, as Julian's mother, I felt compelled to warn Victor, hoping he might guide our son away from recklessness. I clung to the hope that with Victor taking over, Julian's fate might change. Ethan said. My words were interrupted. Vivian interjected again. "I've spoken to Julian's teacher. He said everything is fine." Victor snapped at her, uncharacteristically harsh. "Shut up. You already said your piece. Now I want to hear her." One moment they were lovey-dovey. The next he turned ruthless. She tried to salvage the situation but misunderstood Victor completely. To him, I might be expendable, but Julian was his legacy. A symbol of his success as both a businessman and father. Chastised, Vivian dared not contradict Victor directly, instead shooting me a resentful glare for meddling. Her reaction made her motives clear: she was rushing things. Ethan said Julian has been skipping classes, fighting, dating, and associating with gang members. Due to Julian's behavior, Victor had to put aside work for serious conversations with our son. I doubted it would help, as my phone soon rang with a call from Julian. Gazing at the caller ID, I sighed that this was the first time he had voluntarily called me. The moment I answered, his roar erupted. "Did you snitch to my dad? You said you'd stop interfering." Background noise and decent sound suggested he was in a seedy location. Even in his rebellious phase, he had once restrained himself with me. Now, post-divorce, he no longer saw me as family, revealing his true self. Glancing at the time 22:09, I said firmly, "You don't need to keep confirming. I said you're an adult now. Free to choose but responsible for your choices. As for your father," I merely reminded him, "what he does is entirely up to him." Julian muttered dismissively, "Whatever. Just stop snitching. Vivian will handle the rest." A woman's voice called him in the background. Gotta go. Even with a junior college degree, years out of the workforce had left me rusty. Catching up required extra effort. Today, I would formally report to Miranda for the first time. Naturally nervous. After reviewing my report, she smiled. "Impressive you achieved this in such a short time. I knew I was right about you." Relieved by her praise, I said, "That's thanks to you, Miranda. I wouldn't be here without you." "Stop that, we're beyond formalities," she said, setting the folder aside. "Clara, how's everything at home? Especially with your son." I knew what she was hinting at. Once so family obsessed, though I hadn't told her about Victor and Julian. My sudden career return